Let's start with the understanding what exactly people or the interviewers are trying to assess in a product management candidate.
When I say aptitude, it means like how open the person is to get a holistic view of the problem that my potential user is facing.
Generally, the product management roles may differ, that is my assumption, across startups, mid-level companies and big enterprises. So how does it differ in terms of the focus on the interview for the candidates?
If you look at a startup, they are looking for someone who is versatile.
You should always remember what Edison once said, that I haven't failed 1,000 times. I have discovered the 1,000 ways in which this wouldn't work. And ultimately, I'll figure out which way it works.
So how do you determine the right metrics for any of the products you're building? You are asked to design a vending machine for the blind. You are asked to improve the experience for the seniors on Instagram.
This is primarily when you ask clarifying questions. And that time itself, you should make up your mind and resolve to understand how much time you're going to spend on delivering your answer.
So, product management interview are generally designed to test the knowledge of a candidate on think strategically and also to solve complex business problems and complex user problems. If you want to really succeed at the product management interviews, you need to start understanding how to answer questions related to behavioral questions as well as product sense questions. In this episode, we are going to do exactly that. Welcome to a brand new episode of Future Forward, a podcast series by Techcanvass on artificial intelligence, business analysis, and product management. Okay, let me start with the introductions of two of the guests which we have today. First is Abhilasha Pandey. She's a program and product management leader with 20 plus years of experience driving digital transformation and customer experience excellence, an expert in agile transformation and stakeholder management with a strong track record and across both service and product-led organizations. Next, we have Roopa. She has 18 years of experience and very experienced in insurance and services sectors, currently leading operations. She's a certified specialist on IM Indore Certified Product Manager program and CSPO expert in agile, lean, and user-centric design. So let's start the episode today. So hi Abhilasha, hi Roopa.
Hello.
Okay, so I just gave a small introduction for both of you. Can you tell us a little more what you're doing and how has been your background?
Sure. So, in the current role that I'm playing, that of a product manager, who is responsible for the delivery as well for the product. So we are building the product right from the scratch, one of the products. So it's basically the product organization in my company builds multiple products and delivers to the customers. So there are in-flight products which are already delivered to the customers, and we are supporting that and enhancing that. And then there is another one which we are building right from scratch. So it's kind of like the experience-wise or the team structure is both like developing from the scratch and building feature by feature. And then we are also like enhancing the existing product, getting customer feedback, assessing what is working, what is not working, and how to make it better. So it's on those lines. And yeah, when it comes to interacting with customers, so that is the most important part which I feel. And that is where the entire focus is to get the feedback from the customer as early as possible and then build upon it.
Okay, thanks for that. Yeah, coming to you, Roopa.
So, Abhishek, currently I'm in an operations role. I lead a team of 21. And how I apply my product management expertise is because we are trying to build employee user interface for making the system more employee centric, and we are building platforms which makes our work more efficient, and we are able to deliver more in less time. And how do I do it? I get feedback from my team because they use those interfaces and they are able to give feedback. We keep constantly improvising based on that. and with small iterations we develop the applications. Currently we are looking at platforms which are catering to B2B vendors, and we are trying to improvise on those platforms to make their experience more pleasant and get better net promoter scores.
Okay. So great. So we have the introductions now. Now let's coming back to the topic for today. So we are talking about product management interviews. Okay. So product management interview is a little tricky one and very unpredictable in terms of the kind of questions which are asked. So first we let's start with the understanding what exactly people or the interviewers are trying to assess in a product management candidate. So let's start with you.
Sure. So, considering I'm the person who is trying to hire a product manager, what are the things that I would look for in the ideal candidate? Would be I'll first of all see the aptitude of the person sitting in front of me. When I say aptitude, it means like how open the person is to get a holistic view of the problem that my potential user is facing. So basically, the person, the candidate should be aware of the problem that the users are having, and then the mindset should be how to make it better for that user, like how to make a better situation, how to make the scenario or in fact even the usability of the product. So it has to be very very user centric, the approach. So that is what when I'm looking for a product manager to get inducted in my team, I would look for those traits foremost. And then, of course, the analytical skills and the technical skills would definitely come into picture. But that is the foremost thing that I need to have in that person, being very, very user centric.
Right. So now, coming to the next question. So generally, the product management roles may differ. That is my assumption across startups, mid-level companies, and big enterprises. So how does it differ in terms of the focus on the interview for the candidates?
Definitely, as you mentioned, these three sectors are different and their approaches are different. If you look at a startup, they are looking for someone who is versatile. The product manager has to wear many hats. He has to perform many roles. It's not just related only to the product. It could also be related to QA. It could be sales support. Many hats basically, and the time taken also is relatively faster in these setups because they are looking at delivering products more faster. If you look at mid-size or like you said, scale ups, these organizations are more looking for someone from a hybrid perspective. They want to implement uh, processes which are going to help them grow in the organization. So something is already existing and they want to just scale it to a bigger scale, and so that approach will be different on those grounds. Now, if you look at big techs, and I would say like something like FANG, which is like Facebook with Meta, you have Apple, you have Amazon, you have Netflix and Google. These companies, they are looking for someone who is able to be a specialist, who is able to give more on something more specific to and narrow it down to a certain domain at a massive scale. So these interviews will usually be more deep into technicalities. The rounds also will be more technical, and they would want the candidate to be having more industry expertise, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So now, one more question which comes to mind. This could be answered by both of you. Is that what are the common mistakes which people generally make while appearing in an interview?
Okay, maybe let me start on that. So the most common mistake that we have, like anytime, it's not only applicable for product managers, it's anyone. So when you have a problem in front of you, you immediately start figuring out a solution for that. I don't think that should be the right approach. You have to first get to the depth of the problem. You have to understand why the problem is happening. So in SDLC word, we have the concept of root cause analysis. So that root cause analysis is very, very important. So you do not need a documentation per se, but you have to understand if the user is facing a problem, why that is a problem, and what is the underlying issue behind it, and then whether it's a symptom or it's actually a problem. So many a times we think that there's a problem, but it might be only symptomatic. It might not be the actual problem. The root cause behind that is something else. So that is the most important thing that any product manager appearing for an interview should remember, that when you are faced with a problem, you have to first kind of do a post-mortem of the problem. You have to understand what the problem is, why is it, uh, what hardships the end user is facing because of that. And then from there, the solution should start from there. Instead of upfront starting with the solution, defining the features, defining the user journey, you have to first understand the user. Then you have to define the user journey for that.
Yeah, valid point.
I think, like Abhilasha mentioned, yeah, that is definitely one of the biggest problems that any candidate is so excited to give the interview that he starts listing the features. But like she said, we need to analyze the question first, understand the objective of the question. It is not wrong to ask for a minute or two. They are not going to judge you. The interviewers, in fact, will be happy to see that you are having a more organized way of approaching the question and taking the time to structure your answer, and not fumbling. You're not going on rambling about the solution, because when you end up rambling, you end up losing the thought flow, and it becomes difficult for the interviewer also to understand what thought flow you're following. So I think from that angle, it's very important that you take your time. And the most important key to it is to stay calm and patient after the question is thrown to you.
Correct. Okay, so now let's get into the questions zone. Okay, let's start with the first question. So I'll start with you. How do you define a good product?
Okay, so a good product is if it is usable, if it is valuable, and it's feasible. So how do you define usable is the user is able to uh, you know get solution for the pain points, and the experience is having less friction. It's effective, and the experience is delightful for the user. By being valuable means it is addressing the pain areas, and also sometimes it could also be addressing the needs that are not met in the market. So that way it becomes a valuable product, right? And then the last one being feasible is getting this product delivered with the constraints that the company is having, like technical constraints or resource constraints or the budget constraints. With those constraints, if you are still able to deliver a usable and valuable product, then it becomes feasible. And if a product is able to meet all these three criterias, then I think it's a great product market fit, and it becomes a great product and not just a good product.
Right. So the next question is, you mentioned about features also, right? So what is the difference between a feature, a product, and a platform?
Yeah, sure. So feature, if I say a feature is just a functionality in an existing product. So when you are building the product, you keep on adding different functionalities. That becomes a feature. Uh, a product is the combination of the list of features which are purpose to solve a problem or to give benefit to the user who is using it, as in they are able to use it properly, they are getting some outcome out of it that is beneficial to them. Platform is it's a suite of products, or it's an arrangement wherein multiple products can come together. uh, you can give different benefits that can be applicable to different products. For example, Google has this identity management system, So that becomes a platform because it can be used by multiple products. At the same time, it's also a platform because uh, it has Google Chat, it has Google, Gmail. All of them are integrated through this identity and authentication platform that Google provides. So that is a platform. And the chat, the email, the Gmail, etc. These become the products. And I mean, I'm just trying to categorize and then get into the detail. And like for example, in Gmail, you have the compose email functionality, you have the set reminder functionality, you have the calendar functionality. So these become the features for that
Right.
product.
The next question is for a product manager, what does the success mean?
So, for a product manager, delivering the product is not the only success. It's also about how it is delivered, and it's the small wins, because product management is heavily relying on agile concepts, and agile tells that you deliver small iterations, and that all iterations are aligned to the main product vision. So every small win is a stepping stone towards the end product, and then you are able to deliver that. So uh, even if you fail in the first iteration, there's always a scope for adding the lessons learned from the previous iteration, and make sure that in the next iteration you're not failing on that particular point. So I think it's not just delivering the product, but also the entire journey, how it's handled, and how well it is handled. That's important for a product manager to think if it is a successful one or not.
Correct. So, just extending this question and looking at, there is always a conflict in terms of expectations from the stakeholders. That okay, we have these requirements. Now the question comes in prioritization: what to build and what not to build.
Correct.
So, how have you handled these situations? I'm sure you must have faced these situations.
So there is a concept called a feature value. So, for example, I have my product roadmap in the backlog. Then I do my prioritization, so which come should be part of the next set of releases. Now, how do I define that? So, I'll add a value to each of the feature. Now, how does that value come into picture? So there are different frameworks for that. The Moscow framework is there, the RISE framework is there. And then you can also build on your own based on the priorities you have for the organization. For example, how easy it is to implement, what is the impact, whether there is a customer demand for that. So based on all these factors, every feature gets a value assigned to it. And that would also include the commercials of implementing those features. So basically, the cost the company incurs. So combining all of these factors, you get a value, and then based on the value, you sort the features. Now, in case of conflict, you get the right stakeholders involved. The customer has provided the input, and that's how you come up with that backlog and everything. So customer is not involved at this point of time. Now it's only the internal stakeholders. Now they need to decide which feature to develop, right? So that is where you get all the stakeholders together, get into a discussion, uh, explain the value each of the feature brings in, and then based on that we come into a consensus that okay, which one is at a higher priority and which should be addressed first, because all the stakeholders together are trying to build the product that is eventually beneficial to the customer, right, or the user. So that way I do the prioritization and I handle such conflicts if at all it happens.
Okay. You want to add something to this?
Yeah, from one perspective that most of the people in this industry faces managing certain stakeholders where they want to push a feature that they feel is worth pushing for, like some sort of a pet project. And it becomes very difficult when you're handling such stakeholders, because um, you are reporting to them about the progress on the work, but at the same time making them understand why we are not adopting a certain feature because it could be a great feature, but it's not a must have, right? We want to prioritize that first. Like she mentioned, Moscow is what we use framework. And then it is very essential that in such times you present them with data to make them understand, just not say a straight no, but it's, a way of handling it through clear communications. And obviously, in God we trust, but for rest we have data, is what they say, right? So it's very important that you show data to the such stakeholders and try to manage the conflict.
Okay. So this was about stakeholder side. There could be other side also, the solutioning team. Okay. Did you have any situations where you are having a conflict with your tech team? Okay, on certain features. It could be anything. And if yes, how did you handle it?
Yeah, I'll give you a recent example. So, in the current product that we are building, so there are certain NFRs we needed to be taken care of, like scalability and everything, multi-tenancy, etc. So now the traditional approach is the solution approach, right? I mean, usually the team that I have, they are majorly from the solutions background. So they didn't understand the importance of certain things to be done in a certain way, why it is so. So, for example, we wanted to handle multi-tenancy. So for that, a specific architecture has to be followed. So the modularity has to be there. The preference was from the lead architect. The preference was for a microservices, but the senior developers, they didn't agree with that, and they said, why not go ahead with this a particular approach wherein service calls another service, and that's how we should be doing it, because that is how it has worked, and we have a success behind that. Now, because they did not have the big picture of what the product we are building and what is its end use, or what is the vision that we have. So in this case, they did not know that the same platform will be used for multiple customers when we are onboarding it. And it's very important that the data sanctity is there. I mean, there is no sharing of data, etc. So this is very, very important. Now, this scenario, then I realized that where they are coming from, like where the tech team is coming from, and I understood that okay, they do not have the complete picture. So that is where in one of the meetings, then I explained that okay, before you jump to any solutioning or any conclusion, let's first understand what we want to build and why we are doing it, and then certain mm, proposals that have been provided by the senior architects or the lead architect of the product, why that is coming, where that is coming from, basically why do we need it to do it in such a way. And then once I explained that, then they understood, they got aligned, and that is how. So basically the idea is ki, like, you have to communicate. The more you communicate and the right information, so it shouldn't be that there are certain aspects in the older world of waterfall, we just had a version of requirements, we just followed that requirement. But in a product building, it's completely different. You have to understand what is the one north star that the product wants to achieve, and everything should be aligned towards that, all activities. So and everyone in the team, the entire product team, be it QA, be it developers, be it the DBAs, everyone has to understand what we are trying to build and why we are building it, what is the end goal. Once that visibility is there, then it doesn't uh, makes life so difficult for any of us.
Okay. So taking a cue from that, the North Star or the product vision. So you decide the product vision, okay, and you start pursuing it, right, from an organization perspective. But there's always a point where you have to say, okay, do we need to pivot or we need to keep pursuing the same North Star? So how do you kind of evaluate? And what are the signs which you need to look at saying, okay, now we need to pivot maybe?
So I would say both have indicators. You need to rely heavily upon these indicators. Your KPIs, what you've decided in the beginning when you're building the product, has to be absolutely on point. Because if your KPIs itself are not right, then it is going to mislead you and you're going to end up with a failed product. So it's very important that your North Star metrics and your KPIs you have decided for a particular product or a feature, whatever that you're trying to release, is very much on point. Now, for a pivot to happen, definitely the product is probably not reaching the goal, the business goal, the product vision. Say, for example, customer lifetime value is not being achieved, despite of you doing so many, you're taking so many efforts in marketing the product, or trying to broadcast it everywhere. But if it's still not, getting that kind of response, then that could be one of the reasons why you want to pivot. Or it could be that a certain feature is not really working in a way that probably the other metrics, like for example, your DAUMA is not in place, your stickiness ratio is not in place. So these are, so heavily you need to rely on the metrics, the results that you're achieving from after delivering the product. And for perseverance, I feel that even if you have a, especially for early stage users, if you have, even if a small base of users that you have, but if it's successful, I think then you should focus on that small base and then try to scale it later on what worked well, lessons learned from that, and then go accordingly. So it all depends on the indicators. It all depends on your KPIs, on the North Star metrics. Like Bhavna had mentioned earlier, North Star metrics is absolutely what you need to look at.
Yeah. So since she has mentioned metrics, so how do you determine the right metrics? Because there's no limit, right? So how do you determine the right metrics for any of the products you're building?
So, for the product that I'm building, for example, uh, I'll focus my efforts on understanding what is working and what is not working. So I'll release my product in. So there's a concept called fail fast and fail early, right? So that is how you learn. So I'll release a version of my product and then I'll keep on checking. So that is where the metrics will come into picture. What is the footfall of that particular feature, whether users are using it. So I'll have the traceability on that. Then, for example, it's a shopping cart feature that I have given. Now I want to see that if I have given the payment functionality in that shopping cart, so how many people are reaching till that functionality, or whether they are abandoning the cart before that only. So all these metrics will help me in identifying whether a particular feature is being used by the customer or the user, and whether it is going till fruition, like till completion. And these metrics will help me. Now, it wouldn't help me if I only get the number of users on the my site. I would have to be specific about how many users of those are reaching the till the shopping cart, and then of those users, how many orders are getting converted. So I'll have to focus my effort in getting that numbers right or increasing. And I would also like to add to the point on pivot and perseverance. So I have built a feature, I have rolled out into the market. Now, for perseverance, if I have a small section of users using that feature, if I have that data, and I see that a very gradual increase in that data is there, it might be minuscule, but the increase is there, the delta is there, the increment is there, then I would like to continue for some more time and evaluate my uh, decision. But if it is not being used at all, I'll wait for some time. Of course, I have rolled out a feature or a product, and I'll wait for some time, maybe a month or so. But I see that there is no response from the user. There's no one coming to use that feature. Then of course, then I'll have to take the hard decisions on that. So all these uh, metrics help us decide on what should be done ahead for the product.
So the next question is about dealing with failures. Okay, so you have been involved with some release, and there's a lot of effort for the team, for yourself. What if it fails? How do you deal with the failures?
Yeah, failures are very disappointing, of course. But then we should always take it with a pinch of salt. So every failure will be a learning for us, right? So we should always remember what Edison once said, that I haven't failed 1,000 times. I have discovered the 1,000 ways in which this wouldn't work. And ultimately, I'll figure out which way it works. So on similar lines, like every failure, okay, we'll do without getting into the blame game, without finger pointing. We'll find out what worked. Of course, I mean, it wouldn't be 100% failure. Definitely something would have worked. So we have to identify the positives out of it, of this negative. So doing a thorough postmortem of what happened, what went wrong, where we went wrong, and what corrections can be taken, what corrective actions should be taken. So we'll figure out from that. We'll do after that analysis. So basically, in Scrum we have the retrospective. So no matter whether it's the release is a success, the sprint is a success or a failure, you always do the retrospective. You identify what worked well, what did not work well, what are the other ways we can improve our ways of working. So I always go by that approach. Of course, it's disappointing when you build a feature or a product with so much of intent and good uh, thoughts and motivation around it. But yeah, maybe we went wrong in identifying what the user actually wanted, and that's where the learning comes into picture. Uh, Another thing I would like to highlight is getting the stakeholder support or the sponsor support is very, very important in such cases. So even I mean, having a good sponsor who backs you even when your product has failed and keeps you motivated, that is very, very important. So there are certain things beyond our control. There are certain things in our control. We try to manage only whatever is in our hands. So whatever we can do best, we'll do and get the learnings and then move on, build new products, better products.
Yeah. So don't take success or failure to your heart.
Exactly. Yeah,
That
yeah.
is
You
the
have to
message.
be like, how do I say? I mean, udasin rehna is what they call in
Difficult to
Hindi.
achieve, but I think
Yes, yes.
people have to learn this, right?
Correct. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So now we come to the most important part, the product sense part of the product management interviews. So, what is this section, or what is this in terms of the interviewer trying to understand from the candidates?
See, from a product sense, the word itself suggests how well does the candidate understand what product we are trying to release. So, in the interview, the interviewer is looking at whether the candidate is able to understand or identify the user needs, whether he's able to empathize with the user's pain points, is he able to identify what motivates the users, what could be uh, it has to be, of course, in a structured manner, and whether the experience from the product is reaching the users. Are they able to get a delightful experience? All these are understood in the product sense round of an interview. So it's all about the user centricity.
Okay. So, one of the popular questions is design a product for a particular company, right? So, how should a candidate approach this question? Where should they start? What kind of a question they should ask? So, what would be your answer?
So when we started this discussion, the first thing that she highlighted was always to take a pause and try to understand the complete scenario. So that is the first step to go about it. So you have been tasked with building a product. Now you have to try to understand what that product is, why is it being built, and then you can start your analysis around it, saying for whom the product is getting built, what is the problem statement that it is trying to address, and if I am building that product to address that problem statement, what business value will I get from that? So, when there is an alignment between uh, a problem getting resolved along with a value that it gets to the person who is resolving it, when they both are in line, so that is where the success happens. So, that is where the user is able to appreciate the product. That is where, as a builder, I am able to build the product because I am getting some value out of it. For me, value would be the business value. For the user, it will be the elevation of the pain point. So, whenever I am given a task of building a product, I'll first try to understand why that product is being built, what problem it addresses, and who are the users, like the market segment. So basically, when you get into the technicalities, so what market you are trying to address, what is the set of users, so and then along with that, what are the personas who will be using that product. So the same product can be used by different categories of users, right? So identifying all such is very crucial for that. Once you do that, then you start coming up with the features that you want to build into the product. And then comes, so basically it is always why, what, and then how. So you should always go in that manner. So why you want to build a product, what you are building, like what problem you are solving, and then you get into how you would be solving that problem. And then, of course, I mean, with time, you measure the success of the product. So there is a very famous concept, the framework of V2MOM framework that is used. So I think it was propagated by Mark Benioff of Salesforce. So V2MOM is basically vision, value, then you build a method, how you build it, then how you measure it. So and then O is like how to operationalize it. So when you operationalize, how will you monetize as well? So all these aspects come into picture. So when you are building a product, this is the framework you should go ahead with. I mean, of course, there are multiple other frameworks. This is one that stayed with me when I read about it.
Okay, good. So now I'll get into more specific question, exactly how people ask. So there are two questions. One I'll ask first to you. So you're asked to design a vending machine for the blind.
Oh, okay. So I would like to understand first, like how Abhilasha mentioned, right? And as an interview candidate, I would first want to um, get some clarity on what stage the product is at. Is it early stage, or is it being currently used and you want to scale it more, or there are some issues in the current product and you want to fix that? So I would ask by asking clarifying questions. Secondly, it's specifically for the visually disabled. So I would then think about certain features that are haptic, or they are more audio related. I would say if mostly the vending machines have buttons on it, so it should have some raised symbols or braille kind of symbols where the blind can feel the buttons and understand which what are they trying to get out of the machine. So certain features like that, and of course then your later on your metrics to follow. We then decide how often that machine is being used, whether we are getting good response from our segmented users, and here we are only specifically targeting the visually impaired, so we want to look at those metrics particularly. So that's how I would go about answering questions for such product related questions.
Okay. So the next, you are asked to improve the experience for the seniors on Instagram.
Okay. Yeah. So seniors have, I mean, I'll first try to understand what problems currently Instagrams have for seniors. So, for example, the text size is small, the reels go very fast, so they are not able to cope up with that. The attention span of seniors as compared to that of a young kid would be different. So from there, I'll get to understand. So first of all, I'll try to see how many users are there of the current user base, uh, how many or what percentage belongs to the senior category, and then I'll see what all features they are frequently using it. So of course I'll have all this data, and then the topmost that comes into my mind would be have a better, I mean, bigger text wherever needed. The audio should be supporting that, so the navigation should be like that way, not very fast, and they have difficulty using touch devices. So it cannot be very, very sensitive. So like they are wanting to touch somewhere else, but something else gets invoked. So there is a proper segregation. The tiles, the user interface should not be very cluttered, relatively clean with clear spacing between them so that they do not. So all these features I will consider in my mind. Of course, the data that I have in terms of what kind of reels they are watching, what kind of features they are using. So that would give me an input on concentrating or focusing more on such features that I will build for them. But yeah.
Okay. So in these kind of questions when you're answering, so uh, to what extent you should describe how you're going to approach this? Okay, like building a new product or enhancing some experiences, because there are people who speak quite a lot. Okay, so where is the limit so that people, the interviewers, don't get bored, or they say, okay, now let's ignore. So, is there a kind of a measurement or something which we should keep in mind?
So I think this is primarily when you ask clarifying questions. And that time itself, you should make up your mind and resolve to understand how much time you're going to spend on delivering your answer. By clarifying questions, I mean asking the interviewer, what stage the product is at. If you understand what stage it is at, then depending on that stage, you will deliver your answers. And it is difficult, obviously, to include everything into one answer and also keep it short and keep the interviewer engaged. So, you need to also respect time. And I think having more structured answers is very important and vital. I feel that whenever you are asked any question, you can follow the STAR or the SAR, frameworks to give your answer. It's more structured, and even your thought flow is. Even if you don't want to, if you're not a person who doesn't have a gathered thought flow, but if you follow the structure, automatically your thoughts will go in place in the process where the interviewer will exactly understand what you're trying to answer. So that will help definitely to keep your answer limited and also keep the interviewer engaged.
Right. So, one last question I want to ask both of you is that one advice. Okay. So, what did you say to anyone who is appearing for the interviews or preparing for the interviews? What should they keep in mind? One or two things which you want to mention.
Okay. So the first thing is like, yeah, of course, you be yourself. Never be in a hurry or a rush to give a solution. So, like, I mean, in this conversation, we kept on saying that you should always take a pause. You should always try to understand what is being asked, understand the situation. So, yeah, that should be the foremost thing. So, before jumping into answering a question, take a pause, take a deep breath, understand what the problem is. In If you are having any confusion, it's better to get a clarity, and there's no harm in asking uh, clarifying questions to the interviewer. And as she mentioned about the staff framework, that is very important to keep your answers well structured. So just focus on that, and then I think it should be a good conversation with the interviewer.
Okay.
I think what Abhilasha said is very much at point. And also to add, many of us, it comes naturally. We get nervous during interviews. We get nervous facing someone who is on the authoritative side, and you're being grilled with questions. So it's very natural to be nervous. It's very important to stay calm, not lose your cool, because it can definitely affect your delivery on the answers. It's being patient and calm, and having great listening skills, because it's very important that you understand what the question is and you listen properly and not just hear. And like she mentioned, asking clarifying questions so you know what answer would be the closest. Because see, ultimately the interviewers are not looking for a correct answer, they're just seeing your approach. Are you able to apply the frameworks that you have learned throughout your product management journey? Uh, Going back to textbook, are you see, ultimately, everything is applied in your work. So you need to ensure that even your basics and fundamentals are clear. And yeah, I think time is also a key. Not getting into lengthy conversations and keeping it crisp and concise. It's very important.
Sometimes the more you speak, the more
Yeah, you're
errors will
rambling.
make. Yeah.
You're rambling, so you end up saying more than you're supposed to, and it kind of, distracts the person, the audience.
You also generate more questions.
Yeah, you end up doing that.
So that's why the more you speak, the more you reveal
Yeah.
what you do not know. So yeah.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Rupa and Abhilasha. You were great. And I hope you must have got a good sense of what a product management interview contain. Uh, you can't have all the questions covered in 1 hour podcast. Okay. So we'll be coming up more such contents. Keep watching and thanks for watching it.